Hello and welcome to today's workshop, Data Visualization with Snell Subject Librarians. Today's workshop is brought to you by Pathfinder. Pathfinder is an extracurricular program for incoming first and second Northeastern students, and we provide a safe and inclusive space for students to discuss and pursue their passions. If you haven't already joined Pathfinder, you can sign up on our website. Our applications are rolling and open to first and second year Northeastern students. And if you want more information about the program and additional resources, that can also be found on our website. If you're looking for more of our workshops from past semesters, you can check out our YouTube channel or our podcast, and I will now pass it over to Kate.
So today I am going to talk about data viz at the library. Some of you have probably heard of our services and some of you probably haven't. What you don't realize is that there's actually a small office in the stairwell of the library where a lot of the folks I work with sit. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those resources and how you can get help from us. So my small but mighty team is a subset of the library called Research Data Services. What that means is we help people who are doing some kind of research, whether it's a personal project or an actual formal research project that involves data. And there are three specialists. There's myself, so I'm Kate Kryder. I'm the data viz specialist. And then I have two colleagues. There's Bahare, who specializes in GIS, and Jen, who specializes in data management. So I'm mostly going to talk about data viz today, but I will also touch on what they do and a few things about some other specialists in the library who might be able to help you with your projects that you might otherwise not know existed. But we can't start with me talking about being a data viz specialist without talking about what data visualization is. That's sort of where we got a token start each time. So data visualization is any time we take information and make it visual. It doesn't always need to be this like fancy one-off New York Times piece. More often than not, a simple like bar chart style visualization gets your point across quickly and easily, and your audience doesn't have to take a lot of time to like figure out a new visual language and what artsy thing you're doing. You can even hand draw a visualization if you want. The point is not how formal and stuffy or coded your visual is, it's how much impact the message itself has. And then possibly more relevant to some of you entrepreneurial folks, someone has reproduced slides from the very famous pitch deck that Airbnb did when they were proposing their idea. Highly recommend folks look it up if you're interested in startups. It's sort of the classic teaching example. Just using large numbers to underscore your point counts as a visual. Someone has sized different circles on their PowerPoint slide to emphasize the different sizes of the numbers they're talking about. This is also data visualization, and it's incredibly compelling. So just a few examples to keep in mind what we're talking about here, but we should talk about why do we use data viz? Why is it worth our time when we can use words or get up and be hand wavy during a presentation, which allows us to leverage our ability to process massive amounts of information, but we have to help people get there. How might you all actually use data viz? You might say to yourself, I don't have a lot of charts and graphs. It's not something that comes up in my life. Why would I use this for a project? And we're going to go through an example here, a very serious example. So prepare yourselves for the backstory. I don't know if you all are familiar. In the US, there's something called Girl Scout cookies. In particular, there is a popular cookie called the Thin Mint. It is a mint flavored chocolate cookie. You don't need to know more than that to understand this story, but here I have an image of two different Thin Mint cookies. So in this story, a project occurs between you and your roommate. You come back maybe from spring break or Thanksgiving break, and both of you have Girl Scout cookies. One of you bought them on campus, and one of you lives somewhere else and bought them at home. You're eating your cookies, and you have the cookie on the left, and you say to yourself, these Thin Mints that I bought on campus are not as good as I remember. And your roommate says, mine are great. What are you talking about? You put them next to each other and you realize, hey, mine on the left looks like a little more wavy, like there's something wrong with it. Like, did I get fake Girl Scout cookies? So you investigate. You put both of your boxes together and you say, oh my goodness, my box on the left is a completely different size. It even has a different tagline. Mine says crispy chocolate wafers dipped in a mint fudge coating, and your roommate says crispy chocolatey cookies made with natural peppermint oil. And this is when you start to think you've gotten swindled. Maybe you have bought fake Girl Scout cookies. But what you learn after a little bit of Googling is that there are actually two different companies that make Girl Scout cookies in the US. And you begin to suspect that one is far superior to the other, and what you bought on campus is not very good. So you and your roommate buy as many Girl Scout cookies as you can. You get a parent of your roommate to send it from home. You buy a bunch of different ones on campus, and you parcel them out and start trying them. This is where data visualization can come in first. You guys could just have a cookie binge fest and go back and forth and be laughing about, oh, let's try this one or that one. But using data visualization could help you be organized. So what you start with is seeing that there's two bakeries, ABC Bakers and Little Brownie Bakers, and they have different names for different cookies. They have different types, and you can start to lay them out and get a sense for yourself which one is better than the other. You do your taste testing and you figure out you far prefer most of the Little Brownie Bakers cookies. And you eventually figure out, yes, it's almost certain that everyone would prefer Little Brownie Bakers. It's a superior bakery. Now is when your business opportunity comes into play. You get yourself some data at the county level that says which bakery supplies that county's cookies. This is the point at which, if this turned into a really big project where you were getting data from all over, maybe you wanted to do the world's Girl Scout cookie distribution, you might ask for Jen's expertise in data management. As it is right now, what you have is this Excel file that has a very formal state code, a county code, the name of the county, and the bakery. This doesn't mean anything to you if you're just combing through Excel. So there's two reasons we usually do data viz. One is if we're exploring something, and the other is if we're explaining something. So in this case, what you have is a table of data. Visually, it doesn't mean that much. If, however, you were to use data visualization or GIS to make a map, in this case, I've used Tableau, we can instantly start to see who's supplied by Little Brownie Bakers and who's supplied by ABC Bakers, and you start to see the tricky situation we're in Boston. Eastern Massachusetts has the inferior bakery. Western Massachusetts has the superior one, and you as a shrewd entrepreneur can now see that there's a business opportunity. You could help people get the better cookies on campus. So the next step is you and your roommate decide we should make a pitch for this. We should start a business. Your roommate's maybe a graphic designer, puts together a little logo, says, I've got it. We're gonna run a company called Smart Cookie. I've got a visualization I made in Excel. We're gonna get people to invest in this and give us a little bit of money so that we can help hook people up with the superior cookies. This is another opportunity to use data visualization, but instead of exploring, now you want to be able to explain your point. So I'm just going to do a quick exercise in how you might improve this visualization to help, say, your pitch deck. So most people think when they're doing data viz that you want to keep adding. You want to add as much information and as much formality, as many grid lines and labels as you can to sort of lend credibility to your visualization. The opposite is actually true. The longer it takes for people to understand your visualization, the less likely they are to trust it. If they find it confusing, they'll say, I don't know, maybe they made stuff up or they're just trying to pull one over on me. So when you're making a visualization, there's a common design phrase, and it's your design is not finished when there's nothing left to add, but when there's nothing left to take away. So you can play a little game with yourself anytime you're making a visual. Keep taking things away until you've taken away too much, and you can always put it back. It's very difficult for our brains to process the pie shape. I don't know if you've ever tried like splitting a pizza with friends and been trying to figure out, like, is that last slice bigger or smaller? It's very hard to make comparisons. But if we switch this to a bar chart, it's much faster to say, well, one bar is longer than the other. I've got it. The next thing we can do is sort that visualization so we can immediately see what's the top cookie we're dealing with here. The next thing we can do is remove the vertical grid lines. We find we don't particularly need them. We can remove the grid lines entirely if we want. We can bring these bars closer together, and then we can add emphasis to underscore our point. So we have gone from that bar chart where it wasn't quite obvious what we were trying to convey to now when you have your pitch deck, people are going to see, oh, cute branding, smart cookie. What's their point? Thin mints. Everybody loves thin mints. We're going to sell a superior thin mint. So this is just a taste of how you all might interact with some visualization principles while you're doing a project on your own. Again, that was everything from exploring and doing your initial finding of tasting the cookies, to making the data you found legible as a map, to making a beautiful visualization in order to get your point across and convince people. The last thing here being, how can you actually get help and what does that mean here? There are a lot of different resources. The first thing is you can email and set up appointments with me, whether that's you have some data and you're trying to figure out how you would visualize it, or you're trying to make a slick pitch deck at the end and you want to figure out how can I get my message across. But then there are also subject guides and subject librarians. So the subject guides are various subjects such as anthropology or architecture that librarians have made lists of resources for. If you're trying to delve into a new field you don't know that much about, these are incredibly helpful to get you started. They'll also tell you what librarian would have the best expertise. But you can also go to the subject librarian page and it lists different subjects, again, such as architecture or biochemistry, and the relevant librarian. So if you're going to start a project, but you don't know a lot about the subject matter, or you're trying to delve into very particular research, these librarians can help you out. The last thing is you may not know that you have access to various software through Northeastern. Obviously, PowerPoint and Excel are most common, but if you're interested in learning how to design very refined visuals, you do have access to Adobe as a student. And you can also get a free 1-year Tableau license. Highly recommend you take advantage of them. And then the last bit is I have credits for the beautiful visualizations I used from various people, should you all be interested in finding more out about them. But that's it for me delivering my spiel. I would love if anyone who's on today has additional questions to answer them as best I can.
Thank you so much, Kate. I had a quick question just about meeting with you. So last year I met with you for one of my data visualization projects and it was super helpful. And I brought sketches and different ideas, but if you could just give us a little more information on, you know, what you might need to prepare before you meet with a data visualization specialist or other specialists in the library, what kind of stages you might be at in your project, and how you can best interact with the Snell Subject librarians.
Yeah, the various subject librarians. Most of us have a link that takes you to a scheduling page where you can book an appointment. Right now, many of us are virtual, but the beauty of this is if it's late at night and you are panicking about a project or want to schedule some time for later in the week, you can usually do this in an automated fashion. So you can schedule an appointment somewhere that works between your schedule and the librarians. As far as how to prepare for an appointment and what to bring, it usually varies. If you're at the beginning of your research process, come with an idea of what you'd like help with. Instead of just saying, I'm looking for data, you know, go to the business librarian and say, I'm looking for data specifically about, Girl Scout cookies and the bakery. I've looked at X and Y. Do you know of any like databases I could look at, or have any tips on that? You can usually reach out with a simple question like that over email. But if it's something more complicated, maybe your project's a little amorphous, you don't even know what kind of data you need to be looking for, you can book an appointment and you can always ask that individual librarian what to prepare. Usually it's good to have an idea of what you want to get out of the appointment. What will success look like at the end? And then to know that the librarians are there to help support you doing your own project, but they can't like do it for you or spend many hours looking for the data. They can only put you on to the resources to find it yourself. As far as meeting with me, you can meet with me at any point in the process. If you have a like verbal or written project, but you want to add visuals, a lot of people come in when they know they have a paper and they'd like a visualization. It's okay to come with the paper and have us talk about what messages you might want to create or visualizations you might want to add. All the way down to if you have a very finished visualization and you just want feedback on it, or if you're starting to learn something like a tool like Tableau and you're doing a project in it, we can meet about how to do something in that.
I also have a question. So this might be some students like first introduction to data visualization. So do you have any like classes or faculty or departments that you could like recommend or speak to that students could look into if they're looking to like take a class or something on data visualization?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I would say it's a judgment-free zone. When I started in data viz, I had no training. I did my portfolio in PowerPoint, which I don't recommend. But you can enter at any point, whether that's hand-drawn or actually learning a tool. I will say a lot of the professors in, say, the humanities are actually very open to the idea of hand-drawn visualization. So I recommend if you're already in a class and you'd like to start learning data viz, ask for permission. Say, can I do a hand-drawn, or I'm trying to learn Excel or Tableau. Is it okay if it looks a little rough? And most professors are happy that you're trying to upskill anyway, so they'll be very supportive. But as far as classes go, there are two resources I would recommend. The first is New Viz at Northeastern. We're Googling live, everyone. So this is the DataViz consortium at Northeastern. They're not always actively having events, but they do try and keep a list of classes. So if I go under people and resources, they have a list of DataViz related courses. That is obviously a huge task to stay up to date with the registrar and constant changes. You can try Googling in the registration where you're searching for courses. You can search for the keyword DataViz and some things will come up there, but also the IDV program within CAMD is technically a master's or MFA program for DataViz, but they have a lot of courses within CAMD that you might be able to take. So I recommend checking out their page as well. I also do a search every semester to find classes to work with. So if you're a little lost, you can try reaching out to me and see if I've done the registration search that year and point you on to something that might be relevant.
And then we usually just like to ask our hosts if they have any advice for new Northeastern students, first or second years. Kate, I believe you went to Northeastern, so any advice or reflections on your early days would be appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, I always give the advice of like, don't be discouraged by the co-op application process. It's hard for everyone, but in terms of actual practical, actionable advice, I would say, I know it sounds cheesy, but go to the library for help. It saved me as a student when I was lost on a research project. I thought, oh, I don't know, maybe the library is outdated. I don't know that I need a book. Do I really need research help? And it turned out that there was a librarian who could help me. I wanted to do a project on the Boston Public Library's circulation of books and how in East Boston that reflected their diversity. And I thought, no one can help me. I'll have to do this on my own. And I got connected with a subject librarian. They helped me get a phone number of someone at BPL, and my project went from something I was never going to finish and was really anxious about to something I could crank out in a weekend and was really proud about. It turned into something I could make into a news piece. So I would just say, if you have a project percolating in the back of your mind, don't hesitate to reach out to someone who has a little bit more expertise in the area. It's part of what we pay for, is that knowledge and expertise at the library, and don't hesitate to use it because they're really nice and they're there to help you. That's what we do for a living, and we're thrilled when you come into our office. So don't be afraid of it the way you might be afraid of office hours. Like, there's no judgment and people are just there to help.
Yeah, that's great. And we really encourage everyone to use these resources because they are excellent. I've used them. I think they're great. And you can just build great relationships too with different staff on campus. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Kate, and all the folks at Snell for doing such great work. And we look forward to working with you again soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully some of you guys show up in my office. I'll be lonely if you don't.
We have a few more exercises and examples in our YouTube video version of this workshop. Make sure to check it out and view all the images that Kate referenced, plus more. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week.